Okay, so have you heard about this? This whole thing with ZakirNaik, the Islamic scholar, always debating. He said he'd convert if someone proved him wrong.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Big name.
Right. So then this SantRampalJi Maharaj comes along,
Oh, yeah.
says he has the truth, like from the Quran, the Bible, Vedas, the whole shebang, and Naik just goes quiet.
That's interesting. Like, what's he afraid of? You'd think he'd jump at the chance.
Right. That's what we're going to look at. Not taking sides, but we got to see what each guy's bringing to the table, especially where they disagree.
It's almost like two ways of looking at the same thing.
Exactly. Different perspectives.
Yeah.
So first, a little background. Naik, he's built this reputation on these interfaith dialogues, says no one's ever refuted him. Then Rampalji Maharaj pops up, and it talks up. Nothing.
Yeah.
Why the hesitation?
Well, maybe Naik saw it as a threat, to his whole thing. Not debating could be a way to just keep things as they are.
Like not giving Rampalji Maharaj any more attention.
Right, exactly. But there could be other reasons, too. Maybe they couldn't agree on the rules of the debate. Or just logistics, who knows? But it definitely makes you wonder, right?
Totally. Adds to the mystery. But okay, let's get into specifics. One big difference between them is this whole meat-eating thing. Naik says it's okay, even recommended in Islam, which is pretty common.
Yeah, the traditional view.
Right. But Rampalji Maharaj, he has a different interpretation. He points to verses in the Quran, like 23.51, talks about pure and good food. Doesn't actually say meat.
Interesting. So he's focusing on those specific words.
Yeah, and there's another one, 2.172, same idea, what's lawful and good. Again, no direct mention of meat. It's like he's saying these interpretations are being missed.
Like people are just assuming it's okay because it's always been done that way.
Yeah, maybe. And get this, he goes even further. Says meat eating was introduced by Satan, not Allah. And that even Prophet Muhammad didn't eat meat. Now, that's a big claim.
Wow, yeah. That goes against how most Muslims understand things.
For sure. And Rampalji Maharaj, he's not just using the Quran either. He brings in the Bible too, Genesis 1.29. God tells Adam and Eve to eat fruits and plants. Like he's saying, look, it's all right here.
It's interesting how he's pulling from different sources to support his point.
Right. Makes you think about how much of what we believe is just based on tradition, not actually what the texts say.
Definitely makes you question things.
Okay, so we've got this clash over diet. What other big disagreements do these two have?
Well, they have very different ideas about God himself.
Oh, okay. Like what exactly?
Well, Naik believes that Allah is formless, nirakar.
Right, they're pretty standard in Islam.
Yeah, but Rampalji Maharaj, he challenges that. He brings up Quran 25.59, where it talks about Allah establishing himself on the throne. How can something formless sit on a throne?
Makes sense. So he's saying Allah must have some kind of form then.
Exactly. And to back that up, he brings in the Bible too. Genesis 1.26, humans created in God's image. If we have a form, and we're made in God's image, then God must have a form too, right?
It's like a puzzle, trying to fit all these pieces together.
It is. And then he throws in the teachings of Saint Kabir, who described God as having a human-like form, just adds another layer to it all.
Whoa! Okay, lots to think about there. So many different interpretations floating around. How are we supposed to know what to believe?
That's the big question, isn't it? If even these respected figures can't agree, how do we figure it out for ourselves?
That's something we'll keep exploring as we go deeper into this for sure. Okay, so these guys, they don't just disagree about like what to eat or what God looks like. They even have different ideas about what happens after we die.
Yeah, that's where it gets even more interesting. Naik, he follows the traditional Islamic teaching. After you die, your soul waits for Judgment Day in the grave, Qiyamah.
Right, like a waiting room for the final decision.
Exactly. But Rampalji Maharaj, he's got a different take on it. He points to Quran 30.11. It talks about Allah repeating creation. Rampalji Maharaj says that implies a cycle, not just a one-time thing.
Wait, hold on. Is he talking about reincarnation? Because that's not usually associated with Islam.
Yeah, it is a bit of a departure, right? But that's what he's suggesting, this idea of rebirth, souls going through multiple lives until they reach true liberation.
Okay, so how do you break free from that cycle, according to him?
He says the key is devotion to the supreme God. But there's a catch. You need the right guidance. He talks about a Bakhabar, someone with the true knowledge of the divine path.
So not just any religious leader.
Right. He's saying a lot of them, even the popular ones, might not have this true understanding. Which kind of brings back to why Naik maybe didn't want to debate him. Could be that Rampalji Maharaj was challenging his authority, saying he doesn't have the full picture,
Yeah, he doesn't hold back on the criticism either. He even accuses Naik of, like, cherry-picking verses, especially the ones about eating meat, using them to support his view, but ignoring others that might contradict him.
He does, and that's a pretty serious claim. It's like he's saying Nike is twisting the scriptures to fit his own agenda.
Wow, so it's getting kind of intense. It makes you think, though, like, how do we know what to believe? If these guys can't agree, how are we supposed to figure it out?
It's a tough question. Rampalji Maharaj is basically pushing us to think critically about religious texts, not just accepting what we're told, even from respected figures.
You know, now I'm seeing why this whole debate thing was so interesting, even though it never actually happened. It would have been more than just a debate, right? It would have been like two whole worldviews clashing.
Absolutely. And think about the followers. Both of these guys have a lot of people listening to them. A public debate could have caused even more division, maybe even sparked some real controversy.
Right, like it wouldn't just stay in the debate hall.
Exactly. Nike probably knew that. Maybe he was trying to avoid making things worse.
So maybe his silence was a way of trying to keep things calm.
Interesting. Okay, so we've talked about meat, God, the afterlife, and this whole question of who has the real knowledge. Where do we go from here?
Well, there's another big disagreement we haven't touched on yet. The idea of salvation. Okay, that's a huge one. Naik, he follows the traditional Islamic view, right?
Yeah.
Faith and good deeds lead to salvation.
Right, but Rampalji Maharaj, he has a different idea. He says good deeds are important, but they're not enough. You need something more. This connection with the Supreme God, guided by a Bakhabar, that's what truly frees you from the cycle of life and death, leads to real liberation.
So it's not just about following the rules, it's about this deeper connection.
Exactly. And you need the right guide to get there, according to him, which again goes against a lot of traditional beliefs.
Man, this is getting complicated.
Yeah.
Meat, God, the afterlife, who to trust, and now even how to achieve salvation. There's a lot to unpack.
It is a lot to take in, but that's what we're doing here, right? Exploring all these different perspectives, not saying one is right and the other is wrong, but just looking at the complexity of it all.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion. Every time we think we understand something, there's another layer underneath.
Exactly. But that's what makes it so fascinating. And it's a reminder that we need to think critically about everything, not just accept what we're told, no matter who's saying it.
Okay, so where were we? My brain is like full. We've covered so much. Meat, God, reincarnation, that Bakhabar thing, even how to reach salvation. It's mind-blowing how much these two guys disagree on.
It really shows you how complex these topics are, especially when you're trying to make sense of ancient texts in today's world.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to this question. Why didn't Naik debate Rampalji Maharaj? At first, I thought maybe he was scared, protecting his image, or they just couldn't agree on the rules. But now, thinking about everything we've talked about, there's got to be more to it.
There's definitely more to consider. Think about it. These are two big names, both with lots of followers, both claiming to have the truth. A public debate, that could have been huge, could have divided people even more, maybe even caused some serious problems.
Right, it wouldn't just be a friendly conversation.
Exactly. And he's been in the public eye for a long time. He knows how these things can blow up. So maybe declining the debate, that was his way of, trying to keep things calm.
Like he chose to be quiet to avoid making things worse. That's interesting.
It is, isn't it? Makes you think about the responsibility these religious leaders have. Especially nowadays with social media and everything, one little spark can cause a huge fire.
Whoa, I didn't even think about that. So it's not just about who's right or wrong. It's about the impact this whole thing could have had on people.
Exactly. It shows how important it is for all of us to think critically about everything: religion, news, what we see online. Question what you hear, look for different viewpoints. Don't just believe everything you're told.
So after all this, do we have any answers? Like, who's right?
Maybe not clear-cut answers, but I think we have a better understanding of the questions now, which is kind of the point, right? This whole deep dive, it's about exploring the complexities, not just finding easy answers.
You're right. We started with this simple question, why no debate? And now look at us, talking about what to eat, what God is like, even how to be saved. It's been a wild ride, but I've learned a lot.
And hopefully it's made our listeners curious, too. Maybe they'll want to learn more about both Naik and Rampalji Maharaj, see for themselves what they believe.
Yeah, exactly. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're just showing you these different perspectives. You got to decide what makes sense to you.
That's the beauty of faith, isn't it? It's a personal journey. Keep questioning, keep searching, keep trying to understand. That's what it's all about.
Well said. So, on that note, one last thing to think about. After all this, how do you approach truth? Do you trust the experts? Or do you forge your own path, look for answers in different places? Keep those questions in mind as you go about your day. Until next time, keep learning, keep challenging yourself, and keep diving deep.